You live to a press conference happening in Waterbury right now. Some elected officials there giving an update on that big water main break that's been impacting the city. Let's listen in.
Congressman DeLauro as well, and of course, Johanna Hayes is on the phone. We wanted to really start the new year by being here to offer help in any way that we can. First, to hear from you about what the status of the repair and the costs that are going to be incurred necessarily in the repairs and renovations that are necessary, and take back with us to Washington what those costs are going to be, and as usual, as always, work together as a delegation, which is our standard modus operandi. We have a really tightly knit and really very effective delegation, and we're going to do whatever we can to make available federal resources, and I know the state is involved as well. We face, just to be very clear-eyed, a really difficult situation in Washington, as you might expect. The Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, which is probably one of the major sources of funding, Donald Trump has proposed cutting by 90%. It was about $1.126 billion last year, fiscal year 2025. He's proposed this 90% cut. The House, in its budget, has cut it by 65%. The Senate would fund it at the same level as last year, which is what we will fight to do. In fact, I've asked the Senate to increase the amount of funding for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund so that we can make available to Connecticut and other towns and cities, states around the country, more of the funds they need to rehabilitate and rebuild our drinking water infrastructure. But I want to hear from you about, what the status is, what the costs are, how we can help. That's our purpose in being here today.
Great.
And just make no mistake, we are committed to Waterbury and to all the towns and cities in the state to make sure they have safe drinking water. That is a basic need, and the water main break that caused the turmoil in these past few weeks, we want to make sure is prevented from happening in other towns and cities. And obviously our infrastructure for drinking water is basic to the health and safety of the people of Connecticut. And that's why we are fighting as a delegation in Washington to make sure that there is sufficient funding to rebuild and maintain, and when necessary, to repair these kinds of drinking water breaks.
Thank you. And Senator, I want to thank you for being here today. We appreciate your support. Congresswoman Hayes as well. And I don't know, just before I get started, did you want to say anything?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you so much for calling this meeting. I would first like to say that throughout this entire crisis, that Mayor Pernerusky and the City of Waterbury, Superintendent of Water, Brad Millay, you guys did an amazing job with just keeping people informed, with reporting out the information, and getting water restored as quickly as possible. So hats off to you. We were in session during that time, and I was in constant contact with Mayor Pernerusky, and I just have to tell you, all of the feedback to my office has been that you have handled this crisis remarkably. And I think today we are thinking about what happens moving forward. What we saw is that Waterbury is operating with 100-year-old pipes and not just servicing the people of the city of Waterbury, but many of the surrounding towns. And it is a crisis that needs to be addressed. In the days after this initial water main break, I reached out to the Committee on Transportation Infrastructure in the House to see what resources are available. As the senator said, many of the water infrastructure money that we allocated has been cut, but my question today is what is available? You know, what are we working with? And there is one resource, the Water Resources Development Act of 2024. That portal opens in January where we can submit projects for water infrastructure. So my purpose today in being here is to listen very carefully to find out what the needs of the city are, and then go after all available resources. If it's submitting a grant through WRDA, if it is submitting a community project to the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, if it is going after grants, whatever I can do to help support the city. Waterbury is uniquely situated because we have 4 federal representatives. As a city, there are 2 senators and 2 members of Congress. So the 4 of us working together are going to do whatever we can to make sure that we provide whatever support we can to the city. And I just look forward today to hearing from you all what the status is, what the needs are, and how we can best support you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanna. Do you want to say anything on behalf of Rosa or Chris?
No, I would just echo, Kenny Curran with Senator Murphy's office, I would just echo what the Congresswoman and the Senator have already said. You know, I live here in Waterbury, so I saw firsthand the work that happened and the work that needs to be done. So we are committed to finding the resources necessary to make it work.
You can't say no and then speak.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. Lou Mangini, Congresswoman Rosa DeLaura's office. Just bringing my best wishes from the Congresswoman. Hopefully by the end of the year, she'll be in a different position on the Appropriations Committee where we can be even more helpful. And I wanted to say thank you to all of the Waterbury Public Works and water employees, to the Connecticut and the Regional Red Cross, and everyone who came out to support their neighbors in this time of need.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So just give you a quick recap of where we are at this point, and then I'll have Brad explain sort of what happened and what our plans are going forward. The good news is that as of today, the major lines, the 36-inch mains, both the gravity-fed and the high-pressure main have both been repaired. They are now, we're just waiting to make sure that they hold for a little bit. We're going to start backfilling the holes and get those done. So just before Christmas, we had done some basically temporary repairs to get the water flowing again, and then we waited until this past weekend to do some more work because we wanted to make sure that we didn't get into those pipes and cause more problems just before Christmas. But we now have those up and going. The 42-inch main, which was being relined, is about to be filled with water. We should get that energized, and that should be working within a week. We should have that road all closed up very shortly. So we're moving right along at this point. But I'm going to let Brad explain sort of, you know, what it took to get us here, and then what we're looking at going forward as far as projects to kind of make sure that we at least have some control over the system going forward that we're lacking right now.
Sure. So thank you, Senator, for being here today, and everybody from different departments throughout the state. Thank you. My name is Brad Millay. I'm the Superintendent of Water for the City of Waterbury. A lot of the problems that we ran into are not special to the City of Waterbury. They happen at MDC. They happen at Regional Water Authority. Infrastructure in the ground throughout the state, be it for-profit companies or local municipalities, has all outdated. I think everybody's probably read the articles from every news outlet available in the last 2 weeks talking about some of the age of the infrastructure that's in the ground in the state of Connecticut. It's not just you know, focused on Waterbury here. It's almost all of us. I just happen to be, you know, one of the first ones to have to live through it. So where this break happened was catastrophic in its own right, because under normal circumstances, the City of Waterbury has 2 ways with which to supply water to the residents, and this break took out both of those ways. And it was a 12-inch pipe that gave way and undermined the entire road, and then the 2 heavier concrete pipes, the 2 36-inch concrete pipes, caved in on themselves, and so there was no saving it. But what we did was, once we got into the ground and realized the tangled mess that was in the ground, we switched gears in an effort to get people water, because we realized that project was going to take too long. As you know, it's still ongoing right now. So we switched gears, we installed some infrastructure into the ground, which allowed us to begin pumping water back to the city of Waterbury. Both hospitals, the residents, the schools, everybody had water in pretty short order given the circumstances that we were in. Since that time, as the mayor indicated, our choice was to wait through the Christmas holiday in the event that we didn't want to interrupt service to anybody through Christmas. We wanted everybody to have a normal Christmas in their house with water and workable plumbing. After Christmas, we began working. Our construction crews and our water employees have finished repairing both the 36-inch low service main, the 36 high service main, and the original 12-inch main that is broken. We're filling those right now. We have to pressure test them before we put them back underground and make sure there are no leaks or make sure nothing is wrong with anything. And once that happens, we hope to have the road reopened next week, all of Thomaston Avenue reopened next week, and our 42-inch main that we've been rehabbing for the past 9 months as part of a DWSRF project, that's going to go back online next week. So the city will be back to a functioning two high transmission mains and one low transmission main to feed the city. So there's a system of redundancy there. The problem is when you start to talk about the system of redundancy, you have to have some other working infrastructure in the ground. And sometimes it's not just the pipelines that are in bad shape. In our case, we have very good raw water quality and treated water quality that come down from Litchfield. So our pipes are under an enormous amount of pressure and an enormous amount of flow, and for the most part are in good shape. There are some bad spots where they break, and that's going to happen. It happens to every water company everywhere. There are breaks. Our problem is less the pipeline itself and more the infrastructure that exists on the pipe. So we're not able at this point to sufficiently isolate parts of our system in the event of a break. So we classify our system by east side and west side, the west side being the Bunker Hill and that side of the Watertown, that side, east side being towards Cheshire and the north end of the city. Those are fed by two different pipelines. Well, when one breaks or one's out of service, we don't have a way to isolate. So because the valves don't work, those valves have to come out of the ground, and it's been a problem that everyone kind of knew exists, but it doesn't present itself until it presents itself. So out of sight, out of mind, that's kind of the way underground utilities are. And so you can't really throw blame on anyone not knowing or anyone not doing anything, because you don't know it's broken until you look at it, until you get your hands on it. So and there have been times where we've gotten on a valve, a 36-inch gate valve or butterfly valve, and it's operated and we closed it. Well, then we can't get it back open. So it goes both ways. You might think it works and it doesn't. So those valves have to come out of the ground. We have to be able to isolate our system to prevent this from happening. Right now, the city and myself have designated 10 immediate needs for the city of Waterbury that need to happen. And those are either sections of pipe that need to be replaced. Those are new valves that need to be put into the ground. Those are the key things that need to happen that will allow me to isolate certain parts of the system in the event of a catastrophic break, which is, they happen. There's nothing that can be done about that. The only thing you could do is mitigate how bad the consequence is. You mitigate how bad the result is. So in this instance, had we had valves that would have been immediately able to isolate east and west that worked, I would have immediately been able to keep pumping water to the west side. No one would have ever lost water. I could have just closed the valve and that would have been it. And then we would have taken the time to install a new butterfly valve further down Thomaston Avenue. So our problem was where the break occurred, we were pumping back into the break. So we were just filling the hole with water. So we had to shut everything down in an effort to mitigate that. Had the valve been there and operational, no one would have lost water. It would have been a 2 or 3 hour, walk around, close some valves, keep pumping water, and gotten in the hole and made the repair. But that's just not the case in not only Waterbury, but almost every municipality across the state. They live with the same problems, and the funding that's needed to go forward with those projects is not a small, it's not a small thing. It's big infrastructure. We're not talking about, 16 or 18 or 12-inch lines. These are 36-inch concrete lines that have to be pulled out of the ground and valves put in and ductile iron put in, and it's a large ask for each one of them, and that's why it's always an out of sight, out of mind thing until it's not.
So what are we estimating for the 10 valves? What's the cost of that project?
I think the 10 valves right up front are probably going to be in the area from 5 to 6 million. I believe that the estimated cost of this repair for the past 2 weeks is going to be in the $2 to $2.5 million range.
Well, I think that kind of investment is not only doable but necessary, and the people of Waterbury have a right to expect it. But I think what is so important and what you have just described, cutting through a lot of the complexity, it could happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen anywhere, and it's out of sight, out of mind, until there's a perfect storm, as happened with Waterbury. And what you've described is a massive break that was a kind of perfect storm of one problem adding to another.
Yep.
But there are ways to anticipate and repair beforehand, and I think that's one of the lessons here, that we have aging infrastructure all across the state of Connecticut, all across the country. We have aging roads, we have aging airports, we have aging water mains, and we have a need to invest in that infrastructure. And that's the reason why we have the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was passed several years ago, and which has funding for exactly this kind of project. And in fact, there is $11 billion available for 22 to 26. It's still available now, and we ought to be tapping into that kind of fund. The revolving fund under the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, there'll be funds there.
Mm-hmm.
And you have on that list, I understand, 3 projects right now. The Blackman Storage Tanks
Mhm.
Installation Project for $6.5 million.
Right.
The North Main Station Pump Project for $4.7 million. And the Third Water Transmission Main Rehabilitation Station for $12.3 million. Now, I don't know how those projects are relevant to what has to be done immediately, but you're the better judge of how those applications should go forward. We're here as a delegation to say we're going to be behind you, but looking longer range, what happened in Waterbury is a warning to every municipality that the weaknesses in that infrastructure needs to be anticipated and assessed before they cause this kind of perfect storm.
That's exactly right. And so, and we're, once we get through this part, we're going to continue to look at what we can do to improve some of it. We've been replacing pipes as we do road work and such, and you can see we're doing the tanks because
Yeah.
those are an integral part in a hilly city like Waterbury of how the water gets down. We need those tanks and those systems to make it all work. And those are also old. They're leaking, there are
Yeah.
problems, and so we need to get all of this done. It all needs to be done at once. Unfortunately, we're not going to get there. We're
Yeah.
going to prioritize.
But the
it,
people of
so-
Waterbury should know that you've been working on
Right,
this
yes.
problem for a while. You have
Right.
projects that are underway, and you've asked for funding to support, and
Right.
we're going to be working together with you on enhancing the quality of that infrastructure. But every municipality, every town and city across the state of Connecticut ought to be aware it could happen to you.
Yep.
And I want to, again, second or third what has been said by my colleagues. As I said at the very beginning, you address this issue in the immediate sense, in the crisis mode, with extraordinary diligence and capability, so we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that,
Any
is there
questions?
Of the, you were talking about some of this stuff has been replaced. Can you give us a sense of what percentage, if you have a percentage, is really old pipe, really old infrastructure, and what have you replaced? In other words, is most of your system super old, or give us a sense of that?
It's kind of hard to quantify in a percentage because throughout the years, breaks have happened, things have you know, things have been replaced throughout the years. So to just insinuate that an entire pipeline might be old, it would be an incorrect statement. There might be large pieces of it that have been replaced or updated, or valves that have been updated throughout the years that maybe didn't work. So I do know that our transmission mains, especially, so the senator mentioned the third transmission main, which is a DWS SRF project that we took advantage of this year. That's 2 miles of that main that we've replaced. That, you know, that is an old section of pipe. So to say that the whole thing is, you know, that the whole transmission main, you know, is from 1901 isn't always accurate. But we do have some old infrastructure in the ground, and I saw an article yesterday from I believe Connecticut Insider, where stating that Regional and MDC and I believe Connecticut Water had all listed their oldest pipes as being in the 1800s. So it's not so much a Waterbury thing. It's just, you know, we replace them as we can replace them, and as we have funding, and as the need demands, or as is demanded by, you know, maybe a main break or a leak or something taking place. But right now, I would say probably 10% of our system is from 1920 or before.
Okay, well, that's a quantification.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
And that's
helpful.
probably my best estimate at this point.
Congresswoman Hayes has a question.
Yes, I have a question. As the senator said, a lot of this water infrastructure is aging, and that is something that we knew about when we were putting together the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. I mean, most people think of infrastructure as roads, bridges, highways, something you can cut a ribbon on, but water underground, you can't see the pipes, you don't really know what's going on, and not something you typically think about. Looking at these numbers, we're estimating anywhere between $8 to $10 million in investments that people won't even see. And that's always tricky to get across to constituents and people in the community. Does the city have any contingency funds available to begin this work? Because as we know, federal dollars move at a glacial pace, and these don't sound like projects that can wait, especially seeing that we've seen multiple breaks over the last several months. How quickly can this work get started, absent any other intervention from either state or federal means?
We do have funds that are available, bond funds that may be available that we're looking at now, and things that we can do. So yes, we do have money to get this started. The initial valves we'll be able to start working on as soon as we can put the projects together and get the parts for them.
Okay, because I've seen, as you've seen, Mayor Pernerusky on social media and through different outlets, people talking about the settlement that was just reached with Watertown and different things. And, you know, I always have to remind people that Waterbury was footing the bill for 20 years, you know, so this isn't like a windfall. It's maintenance and upkeep. So just to manage expectations for the people in Waterbury about what this looks like and what these timelines look like moving forward.
Yeah, it's a process, and you know, we don't have enough to do all of it at once, but some of it will be the money that's available from Watertown. Some is other money that we've got, you know, capital funds that may be available that we can go through this. But you know, when you start getting to the larger numbers, you can see the numbers the senator mentioned. Those are monies that we've looked to the feds, you know, and other sources for as well, because of the size of those.
Well, I think that's probably our best bet from the federal delegation, to break this down into smaller parts and see if we can get, you know, 100,000 here or $1 million here, or just, you know, replace a valve, replace a section of pipe, and really access whatever funds are available to kind of support the city to complete the finished job.
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Johanna.
And just one last question, just to kind of reiterate what the superintendent said. So for the last 2 weeks, it took about $2.5 million for those repairs.
I haven't started receiving invoices yet, but just putting my calculations together, I think that's where we'll be. Yeah.
And moving forward for the other repairs, in order to keep up, are you estimating $5 million, and where those funds are coming? Does the city have those funds?
Well, so the city we haven't really sat down to say what we're appropriating and where we're getting the money from, or where we're moving money from. It's not just, you know, here, take this money and do it. These have to be planned things. These have to be thought out. None of them, I have, between myself and the engineering department, we have strategically prioritized a list of things that need to happen from this hurts us the most to this hurts us the least, should something happen. This hurts us the most is coming right off the top, right? So we're taking care of Thomaston Avenue right now. The next project will be on Jarrett Street. That is another 30-inch gate valve that has to be put in that doesn't work. That allows us to isolate one side to the other. That is our most crucial need right now. That's, without it breaking, that's the most crucial need. If everything went haywire again, we could isolate and we could do everything we needed to do with this valve, or most of what we needed to do with this valve. So that's where we're starting. I know right off the top, before I even put an excavator in the ground, that's $1 million project. I know it. I know the cost of things. I know how much it is per square foot of pipe, 36-inch pipe that you have to work on. So you can't just strategically say, well, here's $10 million, work on them all, because they're all a little bit different. They all exist in different roadways. They're all different materials. So I'm taking worst to best, and I'm going to go through the list as fast as I can, and as fast as funding allows for me to do that. But I have identified where we're going as a department, as a city.
Is that part of the 10 things that you said you need in order to move forward when, in the case of any of these events occur, you're able to react faster and not have people not have water?
Yeah, I don't want you to maybe get wrong what I'm saying. I don't need these 10 things in order to move forward. We're moving forward today, right? The city has water today. Everyone has water. The Thomaston Avenue break will be repaired within the week. We're moving forward. The 10 things are what I think we need to do in order to be more efficient and be more redundant and be more responsible as a department to the citizens of this city. Those are the things that need to, take place. And obviously, I have the wonderful support of the mayor and the senator, and those are the things that I'm saying should happen. This is what we need. As a superintendent, I'm telling you this is what needs to happen moving forward.
The 2.5 that she just mentioned, is that, for lack of a better term, is that owed? In other words, is that overtime or whatever? In other words, that is spent, the 2.5, and now you just have to pay it?
Well, the 2.5 is my best estimate.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't have a solid figure on what's happening. But yes, when you include, 3 weeks worth of police duty, 3 weeks worth of contractors, even, just to give you an idea, a 36-inch valve, a 36-inch butterfly valve that goes into a ductile iron pipe costs about $200,000 before I lay a hand on it. So just me looking at it in the room is $200,000. Now you figure the contractor putting everything in, so it's there's nothing inexpensive about this, right? And we put 3 of them in. So there's nothing really, it's my best guess at this point on where we're gonna land. I haven't started receiving the bills yet.
Brad, let me ask you a kind of rhetorical question. In providing water to people, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. In other words, you save money by investing now in repairing or renovating that aging infrastructure.
Yeah, I'd much rather spend $700,000 to fix something than $2.5 or $3 million to fix your mistake from not doing it.
So an ounce of prevention worth a pound of
Sure.
cure, just as in fixing your roof before it caves in and floods your entire house.
Yep.
And Dick, did you say that these numbers were doable? About 5 minutes ago, you said, I thought I heard you say something along the lines, in other words, these numbers that you're talking about are not impossible. They're doable, or what is your view on that?
These investments are not only doable and feasible, they are necessary. And we owe it to Waterbury, just as to every town and city in the state of Connecticut and the country, to provide the support they need to upgrade and repair aging infrastructure when it comes to something as vital as clean, safe water. Nothing is more basic. There's no free water, just like there's no free lunch. We need to face the costs of providing this service, and Waterbury is, I think, showing us the way that a perfect storm can cause a reassessment of the defects and weaknesses in the system. And I'm persuaded, having heard Brad and the mayor, that Waterbury is moving forward in a way that can be addressed very doably in terms of funding. And, you know, if you look at these numbers, the revolving fund last year had $10,900,000. It is a revolving fund, so money will be coming back to it and can be made available to Waterbury and other cities and towns that need it.
And we do take advantage of the revolving fund on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
We do try to progressively change out infrastructure or replace infrastructure that needs infrastructure. And I think this year we're probably, 22 million in, with 10 million of our own bonded money for another project at the treatment plant. So we do take advantage of the revolving
And
fund
there
every
is a
year.
separate program, Section 219 of the Water Resources Act, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund,
Yep.
also a federal program, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which has funding. These are sources of support that are there for exactly this kind of need. But anticipating the problem and trying to address it before it becomes a crisis, I think, is a lesson for
Definitely.
all towns and cities. And cutting this program by 90% is totally irresponsible and reprehensible, but that's what President Trump is proposing to do in this fiscal year. And I know nobody is going to fight harder for funding than Rosa DeLauro and Chris Murphy. And they are on the appropriations committees. Congresswoman Hayes and I are going to be joining with them in this fight. And I think, as Johanna said, we have 4 members of Congress here who are going to be fighting.
Great. Thank you all.
Paul,
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
I just have one question, Paul, if you can speak to, because as I shared with you, my office did not get a lot of calls about communication and next steps in reference to the water main break. And I think it was because the city did such a great job with sharing out information and keeping people informed. We've talked a lot today about the pipes and what's happening underground. Can you just share what you heard from residents and business owners in the city and what some of their concerns are and how we can address those things moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, the concerns are, especially among the businesses, that some of them with Schloss Water had to close down for a couple of days, and,
Yeah.
They're looking for some
Restaurants.
help. The restaurants, some of them closed. We had some issues. They all didn't close, equally, but we're working through that right now. And for the residents, it was the ability to, even prepare food and do things like that, which was all of an issue for them. So, going forward, we need to, look at what we can do to kind of help them out as well with these issues. And that's something else we might be looking at, is what would be available to potentially help some businesses that had suffered through all of this as well. And, we'll be talking to the state as well on that.
We should
So,
maybe get the SBA
I think
involved.
that's one of the things.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think about, because as all of this work is going on, there's a real concern amongst. I mean, the schools closed, businesses closed, families didn't have access to water, and I think that's part of the concern with many of the residents moving forward as the work continues. Is, will we lose water again? So I think just making sure we have some kind of a contingency,
Yeah.
so that while the work is being done, that people are assured that if this is going to take 3 days, you're not going to lose water for 3 days. And if something happens, we have a backup plan so that the schools don't have to shut down, the businesses don't have to
Right.
shut down, because that's what I heard from people, in the community and at church, and, out when I was out and about in the city, just both an acknowledgement of the great job the city was doing, but also a fear of what happens if this drags out any longer.
And that's the key to putting these new valves in and getting the 42-inch main relined and open, because that'll open up opportunities to be able to transfer the lines that are feeding the city in a better way that we didn't have right now. That's the key to doing this as the first stage of really looking at the water system.
That's a really good point, Johanna. We should look at other sources of aid that may be necessary, like for the businesses, the Small Business Administration loans and grants and so forth.
We've had some residents ask us if there's any chance they could get reimbursed for all the bottled water. Is there any federal program or anything that might be available for them to get reimbursed in any way?
I'm not sure. We know of a program right now. We can look into it.
Did you say Thomaston Ave was gonna be done on Monday tentatively, or?
No, we'll start renovating the road on Monday.
Oh.
It will not be completed on Monday. Obviously, there's that hole's 20 feet deep, so all that needs to be backfilled, paved.
So pipe
So-
work done?
Pipe work's done
probably?
today.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, we're gonna go over after and take a look at it, but yeah, pipe work is done today. Now it's really just the remediation moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, and again, my thanks to all the officials working with Brad and the mayor. I know you've had some sleepless nights and long days,
Worked hard.
but thank you all. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jahan.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Mayor, nice to meet you.
All right, you were just listening in there in Waterbury, some of our representatives from Washington, Senator Richard Blumenthal and Representative Johanna Hayes, listening in and kind of having a brainstorming session with the Waterbury officials, talking about the water main break, how much it's going to cost to fix the problem they just had there. The water superintendent, they're estimating it's going to be more than $2 million to fix that water main break that we just experienced. And then he outlined some of the projects that have to happen in the next few weeks and months in order to improve some of the aging infrastructure there. He says that's going to cost millions of dollars as well. So Senator Richard Blumenthal saying that he wants to be able to help in any way he can. They're going to look to see if there's any federal funding available that can help the city of Waterbury. Also issuing a warning that this is something that every town and city in Connecticut needs to be thinking about, because the whole state of Connecticut has aging infrastructure, especially with their water lines. So they want this to be a wake-up call for other towns and cities, and really they want to look at this and try to learn some lessons here and look at ways that they can prevent something like this from happening again and try to get ahead of this aging infrastructure, make repairs, and fix things before they break and cause these big problems. So they're going to be next steps looking at some federal funding, trying to secure funding from the state and locally as well to get some of these issues fixed in Waterbury. Of course, we had a crew there live covering that press conference as well, and we will dive deeper into everything that was said, and we'll bring you updates throughout the day. Next up, we'll see you at noon on WFSB, but we'll also have updates throughout the day on our website and here on WFSB Plus as well. So as you just heard the latest in Waterbury, we'll see you again at noon. Have a great day, everyone.